No one really talks about this. 20 more yards on your drives without any extra effort. Casting, if you look at it this way, when we either have too much hinge on the backswing and we lose that ulnar deviation, and the energy is moving in this kind of pattern. Success leaves clues, and the best golfers of days gone by or present, the powerful hitters, the long hitters, even the decently distant proficient players have one thing in common. There are some outliers, yes, but they all have a common denominator, that when they're swinging on the downswing, they are getting more lag than most of you. What's lag? Basically, lag is in essence this radial deviation. So we are increasing the angle of the club shaft to our wrist. That enables a better delivery and a release that delivers more power. I'm going to show you why the way most of you are swinging and how you're using the wrists in the golf swing. No one really talks about this, but when you get it right, you will add 1, 2 clubs more, 20 more yards on your drives without any extra effort. Let's find out how. What happens with most golf swings, especially the downswing, is we tend to lose this angle a little bit. We lose it, meaning that we straighten it out a little bit too early. So we have this kind of scooping action or casting, if you look at it this way, and we end up sort of shoving through. The other fault that can happen is creating too much lag, thinking you need lag, lag, lag. And that happens when we hold on to this lag too much, the hands shove forward, and we do something like this, and we get those curvy slices. Neither are particularly great. But why do they happen? Why does that happen? And what do we want? There's some golfers that probably stick out in your mind when it comes to lag. Hogan, top of the swing, very much here. Sergio Garcia, known for pulling down the chain and having this sort of action. There is a bit of a deception though, and it's kind of an optical illusion when we're looking front arm. If I was to maintain the same angle here, but I was to literally shallow out the club a little bit more, look how much more lag that appears. I'm not actually changing my radial deviation at all, but it looks like I've got more lag than if I was here. It just appears that way, that I've got really tight angles. But it's just the fact that I've shallowed it out. But we can create something that's way more natural than you having to think about doing this action, because we can't think about it, especially when we're on the course and we're hitting. We have to just have nothing, simplicity, commitment. And I'm going to show you using the hack motion. So what we're going to do here, we're going to use the hack motion wrist analyzer to help accentuate my point for you. And this is a wonderful piece of kit, and I've been recommending it for so many students because it helps kind of every department of your game: putting, chipping, your backswing, downswing, impact, all sorts of things, to give you reliable data so you actually know what you're doing and you can calibrate yourself, and it's quite eye-opening for a lot of people. But what we're after here, we're talking about ulnar deviation, okay? So I'm just going to put my phone down there. We're recording the screen. But what we're talking about, long hitters, okay? There's a common denominator that has said that they have, from the backswing to the downswing, they're increasing this angle here. However, most of you, when you're making a backswing, you're either hinging too much this way, okay? So you're just thinking about, I've got to cock my wrist, I've got to hinge my wrist. So you're cocking the wrist full, so we've got a very strong angle showing up here. So when we're making our backswing, two things can only happen. We're either going to hold on to that angle too long, that I mentioned earlier, so then that club face is going to be too wide, or we stall the body, which obviously isn't going to be particularly optimal. Or if we've got too much hinge here, the other thing that's going to happen, the energy is going to be thrown this way. So as we're swinging down, we have even less ulnar deviation. And the reason why this matters is because as we enter into our strike zone, we want to be releasing that angle at the optimal time. If it's not released, we'd lose power. and accuracy, of course. If we release that angle and energy too early, again, we've lost that power and accuracy as well, because we're throwing it there, then we have to shove through. So when we look at data and the graphs of what the pros are doing, there is a very consistent increase of this angle. So does that mean I want you to really force the angle here? No, quite the opposite. What we really want to accomplish is a nice, smooth, subtle change from the backswing to the downswing that gives us a nice, effortless whip through the ball. That's what we're after. We want that effortless whip, and it happens primarily with this first step. So as we can see here, during the swing, my ulnar deviation, this increased, and the distance was proficient. When we don't do it correctly, when we either have too much hinge on the backswing and we lose that ulnar deviation, it dramatically reduces the distance that we're going to be able to deliver. Okay, it changes the whole dynamic of the swing, the energy that we're able to put through. And you can see on the chart here that just in that shot alone, there is very little peaking, meaning that there is no change. And the shot went like 25 yards less further with less compression, less strike. So what does this mean for you? What do I want you to do? It's actually incredibly simple. One of the best tips I can give you, regardless of lag, is actually to reduce the amount of minutia that you're using your wrists with. If I just gave you a simple task to make a golf swing with no wrist hinge on the backswing. And you might think that's bizarre because you're going to look something like this. Not once when I've asked someone to do that have they looked remotely like this. Because even when we don't try and hinge the wrist, as long as you've got a decent amount of suppleness in your arms, yes, you're holding a good, a decent hold of the club, but you can feel the weight. The arms feel kind of heavy in their sockets, okay? I can feel the weight of the club, and I'm using my momentum and energy to wind up, okay? Instead of just moving the wrists, I'm using momentum to sort of throw the club back that way a little bit more. By doing that, but not move the wrists, what will happen is they will set and hinge just plenty enough. And you'll find that what happens is when we change direction to move back towards the ball, the ulnar deviation is going to increase naturally because the weight of the club and the energy is moving in this kind of pattern, a natural pattern. If I was just to throw the club, it would look something like that. And that's what we need to tap into. Natural, easy, without focusing on minutia. So have a few practice swings doing no wrist hinge, and that includes the downswing. So what does that look like if I have a swing now that basically feels very firm in the wrist? What's that going to look like if I do no wrist hinge and no wrist hinge sort of on the way down, not actively trying to do anything? What we see here is a moderate amount of peak, okay? So we are increasing that ulnar deviation. We are getting a little bit more lag and more power because we can deliver with that whip, but I wasn't trying to do anything. So let's step it up just one more level. I'm now going to, with my downswing, I'm still going to feel like I'm not really hinging the wrists on the way back. I'm winding up, I'm using momentum. But from here, I'm consciously feeling like the club head is actually just dropping behind. It's actually going to be trailing behind. There's like a little delay. So it's this wave almost, this wave feel, but I'm not holding on to it too long. It's very subtle. And we just want to start with almost half swings. So I'm allowing no wrist hinge on the way back and just a real subtle whip through. And what does that do? That increases the range even more. And it's giving me effortless power, an effortless whip through. But I'm conscious of this increase of angle. And just being conscious of it is one thing, but having the raw data with the hack motion is giving me the feedback. So I can start educating my muscle memory. I can understand what that feels like and to know that I'm doing it accurately. And that's the beauty of this device. It's so simple to use, but it gives you that instant feedback that you can start calibrating yourself with. So you're not guessing as much. You'll know what numbers work for you. You'll see that you can increase your lag without having to force it and get the results you want. It's a perfect addition. Instead of buying the latest driver or whatever it might be, this can teach you so much when you know how to use it, and I can help you do that. But get more lag subtly and you will hit the ball further, effortlessly further. So that's what no one really tells you about wrist hinge in the downswing to get more power. Subtlety delivers more distance. See you next time.